Oh, that's awesome. So it will be going live on YouTube. Hi. Okay, good. I'm going to leave everything in right now. So I'll go get it.
This one here is fine.
Each
will take it?
Yeah. Well, this one I think somebody was looking for those two are things really here. It's got very heavy.
Are you busy?
How is it? Yeah. That's why I've got some videos lined up here. Oh, you guys can sit here actually. That we can ask the guys.
Okay, yeah, come.
Actually,
We will need you to record because we have an award.
Okay, sure. Go ahead. I will do that.
의견은 개별적으로
Unless you are
처음에
in the
얘기했던
stage.
의견은 무조건
Maybe I did it bad one.
아빠 발표는 좀 부분만 있어.
너무너무
의견은 확실히
I'm telling her that like you're doing program share.
Oh, I see.
So how many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids.
2 kids. It's not difficult to handle.
It's difficult. It's very difficult.
But if you want to get a hard copy to replace the one you got when you registered, they're up here in the front of the room. You can just grab one from one of these chairs, or over here, or over there on the other side of the screen. And that lists some of the activities for this afternoon. I want to call your attention in particular to an event just after the lunch today, which starts at 1400 at 2 p.m., which is a special panel that we put together for the launch of Next Generation TV, which is the brand name for the Advanced Television Study Committee version 3.0, ATSC 3.0. We have a very distinguished panel of people who normally do not attend our conference. But Brian Markwalter is the CTO of the CEA, who puts on the Consumer Electronics show. We have the VP of Public Affairs and Communications from Sony. We have senior executives from Samsung as well, and these folks, LG, Samsung, Sony, were all involved in the development of the ATSC standards, so they'll take you through that. And then at the end of that panel, we have another special session, which is the Future Directions Committee of ICCE, who's going through all the meetings and conferences. So I think we have a very interesting afternoon, and I welcome you to enjoy the lunch, enjoy the presentation, enjoy the rest of the conference.
I'm just saying, go back to the money and grab on a cup. Yeah, I'll have that. Oh, it's gonna be tough today.
More people are coming in this show like because they will be there because they want to show tomorrow. Okay. It's okay. She may be taking some pictures. Yeah, okay.
You don't have to even record it because they're going to live.
You nice to meet you. There. You too. Yes, they too. Thank you for that. They're nice to
One additional favor from you guys. We're going to try live streaming Tom's discussion with Steve, and we're doing it through a Wi-Fi hotspot, which is open. And unfortunately, I can see that about 4 people here in the room are signed into that. So I'd like to ask you to use the Tuscany guest Wi-Fi, and please do not use the SJL Wi-Fi. It's open, but if you use that, it's going to interfere with the video streaming because we need the full bandwidth. So if you're signed into the SJL Wi-Fi, please sign out of it and allow us to stream this event. Thank you.
So this is just image, and the sound is from the microphones up there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes. In YouTube.
So, folks, just to let you know, Steve has got a very bad sore throat, so don't shake his hand. You can look at him, but don't touch him.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. May we start wait a moment. I'm happy to be here to present all the new ICCE fellow from C Society. Say what I want. Okay. I believe all of you know who's the same one. So
I'm gonna make
where is Bob? Okay. Bob is the reference of the ICCE fellow for.
And we become new. So when I said not to. And it wasn't just enthusiasm from other people, but it's also personal because of Dubai. And since the education and since humor, basically try to do good for the world. And
We're going to get our little fireside chat, so he's going to talk as long as he can, and yes. So it's really an honor to have you come and join us too.
quite an honor to be here.
So what does it mean to you to be recognized?
Engineering. Back when it was analog engineering, you had a ham radio license, 10 years old. You studied all the work, like what you're not even taking that you can afford to buy. half the people say it's good, half say it's bad. For me, early years, not to be political, because a politician, do they move the world backwards? And I decided engineers are the closest thing to the epitome of goodness, which is perfect honesty. When you work out your equations or your program, it is following a set of steps, and it has to be done correctly. It has to be true. It's not like I can use better words than you and get judged subjectively on my words. Objective decisions. When you develop a product, it has to work or not work. That is an element of truth. I decided engineers were the finest people in the world in my mind. Test equipment with dials and knobs and voltages, things that engineers use. And we engineers at Packard were partly marketing because we good or bad in engineering equipment. And I decided I'm an engineer's engineer, but I am going to be an engineer for the rest of my life. I will never move up in management because it gets kind of political, where you take sides and you don't necessarily be truthful about things where like an engineer has to. I'll be an engineer for life for everyone. I will be an engineer. You look, being recognized for engineering. When I developed the computer, this is the product ahead of its time. Black and white to color in a computer, in a low-cost computer. But Atari at the Apple II computer. All the Atari arcade games in bowling alleys and the like were black and white TVs because color was very expensive and hard to do. That our programming basic. And write a game that moving pieces on a screen, a game in one day, rather than an engineer hooking up 1,000 wires over 6 months to get things right. This was a huge step forward. So I didn't do it, but did I do the stuff to start a company? No, I never thought about it. Didn't want money. I didn't want to ever be super wealthy or anything. Didn't really want that, and I didn't want the politics of running a company, managing one. I turned down the big money for Apple at first because I didn't want to run a company, and I only accepted it once it was clear I could be an engineer and nothing more. And so here we were. So what I wanted was not. I did want to bring in my great computer to the world, but Elon Musk wanted a large electric car for his large family. He wanted supercharger stations so he could drive from his home in Southern California to the factory in Northern California. When you develop products for yourself, they often turn out great. And even Jobs and the iPhone is an example. But I wanted this for myself, and I wanted what I wanted when we started Apple and started getting noticed and publicized. My Apple II computer, everything was open source, and the schematics and the circuits were published because I wanted people to see my work. I wanted other engineers to see it. I wanted engineers to come up and say, wow, engineering, how to design with op amps and feedback circuits, differential calculus, how to design, I was an analog engineer, how to design color into a TV, how to mix the red, blue, and green components, and I figured out, for some reason, a weird idea pops in my head or whatever, zeros, the number 6, zeros, not those sort of, I wanted people to look at my designs and say, whoa, where did he come up with those ideas? I was like in a 10-year period of magic coming out of me. And I also wanted them to look at my code and say, oh my gosh, how do you do that? The code of this product, which was Apple Computer, all of its revenues for the first 10 years of the company. This was a very successful product making money. The Apple II computer, all of the code filled a binder about 2 inches thick. I had no money. I had no bank account. I could not afford a timeshare system where you sat down on a terminal and typed in a program and it calculated the ones and zeros that would go in your computer to run that program. I couldn't afford it. So I wrote my program on the right side of a sheet of paper. Then I used little cards to figure out what the ones and zeros would be and what the references and addresses and things would be. And I put 2 inches thick in a binder. And then I typed those numbers. Hexadecimal. I've never heard of that. So what's your throughput, you think? Anyway, my throughput. Yeah. How many pages? I don't know, when you're doing it yourself and you're all motivated, you're so motivated, which I was. I had to have this, a lot of that software was basic. Writing language basic from a book. That basic was the language we needed. I had only programmed in the scientific, I could sniff the air. If people were gonna buy computers in the home, they were gonna want a computer in the home, it had to play games, and there was a book out, 101 games in basic. So I went into Hewlett Packard late at night, opened up the basic manual, and I started writing notes as to what the language was, and then I figured out how do you write a language, an interpreter, just from scratch. And the best things I ever did happened for two reasons. A, because I had no money and had to make it affordable, and B, because I'd sit down never having done this, never had worked with a microprocessor before, never with dynamic memory, never with basic, never with any disk drive hardware or software, did the floppy disk in 2 weeks, just so I could get to Las Vegas for the Consumer Electronics Show. They were gonna let Apple in. We were only gonna send 3 people from Apple, marketing guys, you know, and I'm shy to raise my hand and say, you know, well, gosh, I'm the founder of the company, don't I get to go to Las Vegas? I wanna see the lights of Las Vegas. And I said, I don't know why I did this. I stuck my hand up in the staff meeting. There were 5 of us that really ran the company the first couple of years, and we were 1 year in. We didn't have Bob's VisiCalc yet. There's a spreadsheet that was gonna make the whole market successful. But we needed a disk so you could say, run VisiCalc, rather than have to pull a cassette tape out that says VisiCalc on it, read it in with a cassette tape player. Huge difference going to a disk. So I raised my hand in the staff meeting and I said, if we have a floppy disk, can we show it? And Mike Markle, who ran the company, he was the adult, Tom Steve and I, how you set up a technology company, he said yes. And my wheels are spinning. If I can develop a floppy disk controller and the software where you can type run a program and it runs, if I can do that in 2 weeks, I get to go to Las Vegas. They'll have to take me. They won't have a choice. And that was, I worked every day, Christmas, New Year's. Man, it turned out this incredible time, but I didn't know how floppy disk drives were done, how any disk material was done. I just sort of knew writing on magnetic. I analyzed some schematics. I got down there and built mine up, and it was just 8 little $1 chips. You know, and
Had a variable speed floppy to maximize the disk.
oh, that was later on.
Well, that was later.
That was later on, yeah. But it's pretty anything necessarily on a floppy disk controller, and that allowed us to write software on our host computer, the Apple II computer, to input like unheard stuff. And it also allowed things to be done so optimally with the very, very fewest low-cost parts by sharing the right amount for the task of software. Anyway, I'm just proud of the engineer. I wanted other engineers to always come up to me, and they did. And they did, especially ones who understood how it changed the world at that time. Our first logo at Apple was 6 colors. And our name was not Apple, it was Apple Computer. It's Apple. Today's Apple understands people, lifestyle, needs. We're very flexible and looking around as to what they are. And Steve Jobs never understood computers, hardware, or software. So of course he was successful with the iPod. He understood people. So, and that was the great things that happened to us. As far as computers go, Steve Jobs' distance from computers aided the world a lot in the end. He failed with the products he tried to build that were computers, but he had this vision of the one time he'd ever used a computer. In high school, same high school I went to, but 4 years later, they had a terminal where you could connect over time sharing and type in basic programs. A terminal was a printer and a keyboard, and the computers were way out there somewhere. And he had this vision when the internet came that everything, even programs were going to software was going to be out there. And that's the way it went because bandwidth increased on landlines and bandwidth increased, cellular came, cellular bandwidth. So that's really the way that got us to where we are today with our small handheld products that do all the internet stuff.
You know, one thing I was just thinking about too is that in Silicon Valley, you know, in the Santa Clara Valley where you work, about the time you were doing the Apple I, there's actually a homebrew computer, for example. There's kind of like, and it's like anybody wants to create an innovative environment. It was kind of like, I think it was an inspiration to a lot of people, including you.
Yeah, well, we had a homebrew computer club, and it was a whole bunch of geeks. Pure happened to have geeks that somehow had this idea that if we could afford our own computers, we could do more than ever. We could communicate better, social better. We could educate better. The geek would be important at work where he could write in his own programs, he or she. And this club, about 200 people, the big computer company said, no. Never going to be any money. This thing's not going to go very far. and they weren't into it. Hewlett Packard turned me down 5 times. I wanted them to build a personal computer, but they just didn't see it as a business at that time. So the vice president signed it off, every Hewlett Packard mission signed it off. Steve Jobs and I had to go into business, and I forgot what I started to say.
So I was just asking about, creating environments that inspire you to do stuff.
Well, inspire stuff. Well, I always wanted to be a teacher, inspire others, and make life fun, and that's a real key to learning. So that's a different question. My voice is holding now. I could still whisper right now.
Okay. What do you think are the most, in your view, some of the most important moments in the history of technology?
You know, a nail. But I think we're talking kind of towards electronics technology and some of the very important things. I mean, obviously, airplanes and cars are important too, be they electronic or not. But go back to radio. And when I'm in Florence, Italy, I go to this one church, and there, right next to Galileo's tomb, is Marconi of radio. And I grew up with a ham radio license at 10 years old, and it's so important to me, protecting. We hear music on every time. Television, obviously, is another follow-on. Moving to color television was a huge technology. Radar was a huge technology step. In my very, very youngest days, computers had a long history of many steps. And in recent times, I'd say computers were getting smaller and smaller. Moore's Law. Where does Moore's Law come from? The transistor. Okay, William Shockley. William Shockley was one of the inventors of the transistor and moved from the East Coast to Mountain View, California, Silicon Valley, to start a company to build an expensive transistor that would revolutionize phone companies all over the world. And he hired a lot of engineers, and they learned the technology and worked with one transistor was all they could make on a chip, one transistor. And they didn't succeed, so a lot of the engineers left. They formed a company called Fairchild to build a simpler type of transistor, the normal type. And it was very successful, but then they figured out how to make chips. And a huge step that made chips, this was another step. My life started with vacuums. Then I saw transistors, and I built projects in elementary school science fair projects with hundreds of transistors. Never lose tic-tac-toe. Add and subtract digital numbers. And then came transistors, but then came the first chips. Chip might have like a little 6 transistors on it. One little gate, logic gate. They're very simple at first. But what made chips work? There were 2 Nobel Prizes. I'm sorry, not Nobel Prizes. 2 Nobel Prizes for inventing the chip. One was a design out in Texas by, oh gosh, no. What?
Kilby, oh yeah.
Jack Kilby.
Yeah, Kilby.
By Jack Kilby. Yeah, I met him, and he was a true engineer. And this was kind of an analog device, but out in Silicon Valley, Gordon Moore and Bob Noyce came up with this technique, and really, a guy you've never heard of, John Hearn, deserves a lot of credit for the planar method, the method of taking photographs and etching photoresist and putting etching step by step and implanting impurities into silicon or germanium to make more than one transistor on a chip. When I was about 7 to 9 years old, that young, I went to a show in San Francisco called WestCon. And in that show, a man held up a little design that looked like a bunch of buildings and roads and said, this is going to be a chip that we're making with 6 transistors on a chip. I got my little transistor radio, probably the best gadget I ever had in my life, listen to music all night long, had 6 transistors. I said, oh my gosh, they're gonna make better radios now, right? To my father. And he said, no, when technologies are new, they're very expensive and only like the military and the government can afford them. My father worked for Lockheed, which moved into Silicon Valley, where we were moving into these chips. And the chips were gonna get denser and denser and denser because Moore's Law applied to this plain. About every chip cost about 25 something. And the early chips, and then we had you, so to save weight, you could have 6 transistors on one chip and save weight. And that was really one of the impetus. There was a couple of early chips and allowed this industry to be accelerated, and it's how it progressed. Okay, so those were all steps. Now personal computers came along. I mean, there were a lot of steps I'm skipping, no doubt. Of course, we expanded memory, and eventually, now when we started Apple, you remember, you know, you don't know how far a lot of things like hi-fis and all that were involved with music and different types of speaker technology and whatever. They were very important, but directly in my life, we got up to the before the iPod though, our computers were command line computers. You would memorize what to type to get things done. And along came Xerox PARC. And then Apple decided to build a Lisa computer based on mouse-based technology. The GUI, the graphic user interface, the windows that would open and menus that you could click buttons to bring up from familiar words how to do things. And our philosophy at Apple was make things easier than they ever were for somebody who's never been around computers, who is not a computer expert. Make it for the rest of us. And just have little suggestions. If an icon looks like a paintbrush, what does it do? It paints. So we came up with the Lisa computer, and that was a big step. The mouse-based computer, the Macintosh eventually came. It was a horrible financial disaster for Apple. There was no software for it yet. No businesses would buy it, and that's where the market was. And we had to take 3 years to work on getting software and developing a market for the Macintosh. Its sales were like 500 units a month. Our stock dropped in almost half in a week. You're in a big company and your stock drops almost half in a week. It's like scary stuff. But the Macintosh was still the future, and we believed it. I believed in it. Our CEO, John Scully, believed it was the future. It's just the steps to get to the future were different. The Steve Jobs wanted it for a different purpose, which was to make himself known as the most important person in the world. He always wanted to be one of those important people. He was. He had the vision, but he didn't really have the operation skills to realize what was needed to make the Macintosh enough of a product to pay. That was a step. Now we get to the iPod. And there were a lot of people trying to build little MP3 machines in those days. You could buy MP3 software for your Macintosh, or for your DOS machine, or your Windows machine. You could buy these little MP3 players to play songs. I love things smaller, less money, smaller footprint and all that. Look, the small ones all up. And I found a smart card made for taking pictures on phones. And it could only hold 2 to 4 songs. 2 to 4 songs per card. And you could plug them into this machine. Now you'd have 2 to 4 songs. Unplug it, plug another 2 to 4 songs in. To get enough across the country on an airplane cost about $1,000. Okay, but it was possible to do it with pure electronics, not a moving disc. Well, the iPod came out and actually used a new little 1-inch disc and
128. Oh, and then the what?
1.1 inch. But one disc, and that could hold the 1,000 songs. What a beautiful device that was. I played with mini disc recorders. All the music devices there were a part of my life. When the iPod came out, I don't judge things just because it's from Apple. It's got to be good. I try it, I use it, I get personal experience. Every bit of technology to this day, I like to buy things, even other brands than Apple, even to know what other people are. And then came the iPhone. And who could ever imagine a phone without the button? Just a screen. Technically, and pure, I really used the phone for a long time. Babies can't do that. I had another phone number that was interesting. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Engineers like to do these sort of things, you know, just, let's see. And I had one number, 2211111. Remember the old rotary dial phones, any of you? The number that was the quickest to dial was 1. The next was 2. There was only one legally assignable number in the United States, 7-digit phone number, that had 2 2s and the rest 1s. 2211111. No other way. That was the shortest. And I got it in my area code. And I had a lot of calls every day on that phone. And somebody would be hanging up. Well, I could carry, paper flight guides. I like to be very self-sufficient when I can. And I would turn my flight guides. I would book my own flights. I called the airlines, and PNM had 800 2211111. Aha, numbers catch my attention always. So I said, maybe some of those calls are from Pan Am. Next time the phone rang, I heard someone hanging up, and I said, you calling Pan Am? And she said, yeah. And I said, oh, we were on our lunch break. What can I do for you? Being able to think on the fly and add these little jokes for wrong numbers, I mean, I wound up, so I put my first phone flight that day. And then over the next couple of weeks, I just started going further and further. I said, well, if you want to cut your fare, you go through our Grasshopper special. You fly up to Billings, Montana, down to Amarillo, Texas, up to Moscow, Idaho. They don't even have airports in some of these places, I'm sure. But I said it cuts your fare to go through our lesser used airport, and they would believe me. They had thought they called Pan Am, they believed me. I answered every call for the next 2 years. Pan Am, international desk, great speaking. My friends would say, Steve, it's me.
You think that's why they went there?
But no. I would have gotten caught. Somebody would have realized what number they called. I would get caught by the police and arrested. So at the end of booking the phoniest flights I could think of, I would tell them, you take our gambler special. What's that? You fly to Las Vegas, and then you roll the dice, and if you get a 7, the next leg is free. We didn't believe it. So anyway, I had a lot of fun with those numbers, but at the end of the call, I would say I'm a prankster. This is a prank. I'm not really panning. You know, so I wouldn't get arrested. Somehow I just always stayed on the safe side of the fence, barely. I don't know where we were.
Well, we were in a number of places, it sounds like. But I had a question for you. You know, so you got a bunch of engineers and technologists in the room here. When you were doing the Apple One, or any of the creative stuff you did, what was your state of mind? What would you recommend for people to get yourself ready to do something creative like what you do?
Okay, let's go back to 2 products, the Apple One and the Apple II. I did all the hardware, all the software myself. And the Apple One was not a computer design, it was not a Wozniak computer. I had a terminal. I had seen somebody on this thing called the ARPANET. The ARPANET stretched out to 5 or 6 computers. MIT, Stanford Research Institute, UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, University of Utah. And I saw them on it. And so, oh my gosh, I went on I found a keyboard I could buy for $60, uppercase only. And I could run wires into my TV set already for palm games and all that, and get data on the TV, and I designed this little thing that I would type to a computer in Boston, and it would type back to my TV in California. That was my television terminal. I didn't have any purpose for it, no business. Steve Jobs would come to town about once a year. He did turn that one into money, like all of them, because he had 0 money. And I had this terminal, and we had the Homebrew Computer Club, and the microprocessor chip. I saw a spec sheet on it. I said, oh my God, these are like those little computers I taught myself to design, processors I taught myself to design in high school. Oh my God, my own computer that I told my dad someday I would own a computer, and he said it costs as much as a house. I said, I'll live in an apartment.
Is that the MOS?
Now I saw my formula. What?
Is that the MOS?
The MOS, well, microprocessor. Well, anyway, I couldn't afford the Intel $400 microprocessor, single quantity. And I wanted to design my own computer. There were little kits called Altairs that were the Intel data sheet turned into hard parts. But they were like a computer I built 5 years before. Switches and lights for 1s and 0s, button to get it into memory. I'd already built that computer. I'd been there the week that I met Steve Jobs even. And I wanted something human. You could type in a program and get answers, solve problems. That needed at least 4K of memory, and you had to use dynamic memory to do it right. All these little startups were trying to use static memory, but the Apple One, I just took my terminal and I added a microprocessor and dynamic memory. And to get it refreshed, you have to keep giving sequential addresses like that dynamic memory to keep it refreshed, or it forgets everything. But I already had counters counting horizontal, vertical on the TV. I just grabbed one of those counts every so often and popped it in the RAM, and that took care of it. Okay, so I had modified an existing terminal designed for the lowest price, the smallest parts, to work over slow telephone lines. It wasn't really designed as a computer from the ground up, but I went to the Homebrew Computer Club, and these were people that wanted to revolutionize the world. We used the word revolution. We wanted to bring computers to people, and I passed out my designs for free. No copyright notices, nothing. I just gave it away, said, here, for $300, you could build a useful computer with enough memory to have a programming language. And then Steve Jobs came into town. And it's not like that movie with Ashton Kutcher, where he finds me in a basement working on a computer and hauls me down to a club. I've been to the club every day since it started. I was a hero at the club, showing off my computers. Steve had never gone. I took him to the club to show him what it was about. And that was the Apple I. But before, and going into business, I would not risk my job at Hewlett-Packard as an engineer. So I proposed it to them. And after enough turndowns, we were in business and we had no money. And a local store wanted to buy $50,000 worth. Steve worked managed. We got the parts on 30 days credit, built the computers up in 10 days, no lawyers and bureaucracy of management, and then we drove it down to the local store, got paid cash. So that was how we organized the company. The Apple I people, they're upbringing, this is what's going to give you states of jobs up for jobs up in Cotati, California. To see a woman elementary what it still has. But I believe that. But before we ever shipped this Apple I computer, I was showing off my Apple II computer, the color machine, the arcade machine, incredible shrinkage of parts in doing incredible. I don't want to add, if I have a 4K RAM, if you don't want slots to add more because of Apple. The state of mind was, I wanted my own computer. And I had a formula, I was ahead of almost anyone in the world for affordability and usefulness. And I just wanted to show it off. And that's what I've done with all my little technology projects of my life that weren't worth money. The Apple II, though, was a strange one. I didn't give it away for free at the Home Computer Club. This one, even my engineer friends at Hewlett-Packard said, this is going to be a great product. And I love the games. I had designed Breakout for Atari, where you hit the ball against the bricks back then in the arcades. And I wrote it in one day, actually, the ball, so that somebody would think they were playing as clean as I can. I'm kind of thankful for Apple being that way, too. Probably because that's when I left the board, but yeah. Okay. But that's just important. I'm not political, but a lot of my opinions go towards, human rights. The human should always be more important than even governments. The guy with nothing should be as important as the guy with wealth and power. And I'm always, trying to fight those fights.
Sure. Are there particular things that you're worried about in terms of where technology can go, or kind of the ethics of things we do as engineers?
Well, ethics is honesty, and a lot can disappear, but not in technology. The technology is pure. It's the people behind it that get control of it.
The use of it.
That use it to, for example, say you're going to hire somebody. The more that's about a magazine about Sumner Redstone and Viacom and $1 trillion companies and all this big stuff. And I said, minus happiness really brings a lot of smiles. How do you avoid frowns? One thing is just be constructive. My car gets dented, cars get dented. Let's be and if somebody doesn't agree, you walk away and you're frowning. So don't feel I have to win. I don't have to take sides. That for later food when I so anyway, sense of humor and honesty are the two keys that I apply to technology as well as my life.
This year having store for you, or the next decade,
long time ago, I remember when I was flying and I thought my life was starting to get real busy because of Apple. I thought if you don't have enough time, hundreds of hours to up your rating to twin engine and instrument and jets and all that once in a while. So I said, I'll go back to flying when I'm 50 years old and I have all the time in the world. It doesn't happen that way in life. So I've always been, I guess, very work-minded and for a year. 7-year-olds, they earned their computer. And then I started teaching 7th to 9th grade. I got up to 7 days a week for kids to own a computer back then. Of course, it was good. Well, now I have education and technology have been big parts of my life in facilities all across the nation. It's expanding across the world now. That's run out of Phoenix, so I'm involved in a business that way. I also, and I gave away all my money to museums and things like that because I really didn't want that sort of wealth. Having a street named after me in San Jose is worth more. For a lot of great museums that I helped start. So I got there, and then I did this education into schools, and I said, if you have a ton of money, giving it away. That's just, it doesn't say it's a sacrifice in your heart. But I always wanted to be a teacher. That's why I did my teaching for 8 years of my life. Incredible amount of my time. Right now, we got Wozniak, which is blockchain efforts. I don't want to start digital tourism, but if you have a company that's earning a lot of money, a lot of revenue already, then using a blockchain is another method of financing. It's just like stock. A blockchain token can be like stock exchanges are opening up to blockchain tokens on their stock exchange. One's in Gibraltar, one's in Malta. And I've also been involved in putting on Silicon Valley Comic Con.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Convince Stanley.
what showed me is in Bogota. There's reasons for that too. I'm sick and tired of traveling. I said, this is kind of interesting, to go to all these places. She said, oh, I give speeches. I'll introduce you to my speech agent. And so I met her and I said, okay, book me speeches, fine. I started speaking publicly. And I got up to where I was doing 100 a year, mostly for, and got up to, even very high pay for it. So I'm constantly traveling, 200 airplane flights.
For the audience.
Sure,
I don't know if this mic is going to work or not, but it's on, name like that. What is it?
I can ask.
Any questions?
past, present, future.
Yeah. Here, use this backfire. I think you have to come up here to ask questions, sorry.
Well, I really enjoyed the talk and it's really inspirational. Thank you so much. Since everyone's shy, I want to break the ice. Well, ask, have you been to Berlin?
I've been to Berlin many times. I have a lot of friends in Germany. I've even been best man for a really good friend in Germany, involved in Segway Polo. We geeks do unusual things. So we started a sport called Segway Polo. Oh, yeah. Invite me, Steve at Walk.org. I forgot my card.
Actually, I got your card from.
She'll take you later.
Okay.
Oh, good.
All right. Thanks, Giordano.
Yeah, very aware. Are you an engineer?
She is.
Because when I went back to school at Berkeley, taking engineering courses, 3/4 of the students in computer science were from Southeast Asia. And the South 50-50. Which was different.
So we do have time for some other questions. I just want to say something. Bob Franks introduced me. I know a lot of people in the room know, but maybe not everyone knows what Bob introduced them.
We're showing a nice little computer, telling people solve their problems, type in a program, learn how to program. It was in our manual. And we had games on cassettes at first.
Yep.
And here comes VisiCalc. And this whole model just didn't really exist, but it's in a low-cost computer. It can only be implemented on the Apple II of the personal computers. Commodore and Radio Shack didn't have enough memory for it. And here it was, month by month by month. You could set up January, February, March, April, May, and you could set up income and expense categories and formulas. Every cell had formula, Excel. It was the first spreadsheet. Nobody had seen a spreadsheet model before. In the old computers that printed on paper, it didn't really make sense to make a change, a forecast in January, and see how it worked out in December. It didn't make any sense. It was very difficult to do that sort of forecasting. Any little simple calculators are just one number at a time. Now you had a whole screen, 2 dimensions. You really had that flexibility. Our sales, once VisiCalc came out, people would go to a computer store. Small businessmen would go to a computer store, expenses and income and all, and they'd be able to do stuff now instantly that used to take them years if they were even able to do it at all. They'd buy that up so fast, 10 times more, and it was obvious that personal computers were going to be a huge market at that point. And it was really due to VisiCalc. Just the computer alone wasn't necessarily going to make it.
And in a sense, it's kind of like, we had the same thing out. We build, engineers develop really interesting hardware, but the thing is the software people coming in. And they find the application many times we didn't even think of to get one. Right?
Yeah, and look, video format, be it 4K or 8K, and where's the software? And the software goes with hardware.
Yep. Oh, Bob wants that. Oh, no, you're first. Just a minute.
Yes.
I have a question. I'm here on this side. My name is J.M. Chung, Jongmun Chung. I'm a professor in Seoul, Korea, Yonsei University Asia conference in Seoul, Korea. Definitely would like to get there.
Yes.
But I do have a question. I'm also the advisor so many diverse projects, and also, do you see any usually you have such a good visionary in these areas that you see really they seem to have a huge impact in the world, and so therefore, what
Strike me emotionally, and I'd love to see a lot of the personal health care advances and apps and things, and how they can all be shared even with your doctor on the internet. And I like that, but it's not really my thing. You're asking the wrong person, but I will tell you something. Talked about it. We wanted to make, for example, blind people equal to sighted people. We wanted to bring them closer to what they would be. And we've succeeded, because everywhere you go, look on the sidewalk and everybody.
They're all blind now.
Thank you.
Bob, do you have a real quick one?
Thank you for the presentation. Can you hear me? Okay. So you are like the father of Apple, and you know the Portuguese word. I'm from Brazil, and the Portuguese word for father is pai. So you're like the pai of Apple, and you have an apple pie. Thank you.
Oh.
I like that one.
Okay, but I have a question also, sorry. Actually, we see all the time we have this computers, each time some say that we are a kind of machine.
Things that when everybody's just walking around for a machine. I deliberately tried not to walk around and use mine. I get to, maybe a hotel and use a computer keyboard, maybe my home. And I don't like to walk around and be in one of those. But you know what? Other people doesn't bother me. They're good in their way. They're good. I'm good. Change. When people come up with new technology changes how people live their lives. A lot of adults like to say, "Oh, this is bad. Video games. My kids spend all the time on it." They like to find bad things with it. I just say, no, it's new, it's different, but it's not bad. So the people who use their products that way don't really know. They don't know the past. We shouldn't judge them based on what we do know from the past. I was one of the last people to give up even newspapers, but eventually they're usually on the right track. So I don't. Doesn't bother me that much. Everywhere you go, people, there's a natural built-in thing to most humans. It's conflict emotion. I mean, I took psychology courses, major courses at Berkeley when I went back. Conflict, and if somebody's not like yourself, they must be bad. If somebody has a different culture, a different religion, a different look, a different skin color, they must be bad. And it's something that a lot of us just have to learn to try to get out of our lives. Just because they are different than I doesn't make them bad. I'm very lucky to come from Silicon Valley, which is one of the most diverse places in the country. Only 10 counties, one of Santa Clara County, California, 10 counties in the entire United States where more than half the people speak non-English at all. We're just so used to other cultures, it doesn't really bother us very much. Silicon Valley, and I wish the world had more of that, but generally not.
That's probably a pretty good place for us to quit for right now, because we want to recognize you as a fellow, and so thank you very much for joining us. Yeah.
I believe all of you still want to have many questions. If you are at the same age as me, you can, and you also use the Apple II and the Macintosh, not a fun.
Home before we have to drive to tell.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, have a good day.
Thank you so much, Steve, for joining us here. The next activity we're doing here is the presentation of Society and Publications Awards. We're going to ask each of the awardees, as I name them, come up here up on the stage, and our conference chair, Wei Chung, will present them with their award. So we're going to start with the Outstanding Services Award. And I'd like to ask the following people to please come up on the stage. Fernando Pescador, Saraju Mahoney, and Sharon Pang. Would you please come up on the stage? And I will read you the citation. Fernando, for outstanding contributions to the Consumer Electronics Society, excellent management and leadership as editor of the ICCE Transactions on Consumer Electronics. Saraju Mahoney for outstanding contributions to the ICCE Consumer Electronics Society, excellent management and leadership as the editor-in-chief of Consumer Electronics Magazine. And just ask you to withhold your applause. I'll read the next citation. I don't think she's here, but Sharon Pang is our past president and is for outstanding contributions to the Consumer Electronics Society and leadership as Society President in 2015 and 2018. So now's the time for applause.